In the shadow of the Gaza conflict, Yemen's Houthi rebels have ignited a new front in the Red Sea, with their attacks on international shipping posing a grave threat to the global economy. Despite being thousands of kilometers away from the main battleground, the Houthis have emerged as a formidable force, targeting vessels they perceive as linked to Israel. This dangerous escalation, fueled by Iran's support, underscores Yemen's pivotal role in destabilizing maritime trade routes, amplifying fears of a broader Middle East crisis with far-reaching economic ramifications. There is another development taking place in the nearby Red Sea that has the potential to escalate the conflict between Israel and Hamas into a larger Middle East crisis, even though the world's attention is still focused on the brutal war in Gaza, which has tragically claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people. The entire world economy is already feeling the effects of this crisis. After Israel invaded Gaza, the Houthis, a Shia Muslim military faction in Yemen, armed and funded by Iran, declared their unwavering support for Hamas and the Palestinian cause against Israel. The Houthis have grown to be an important player in this protracted struggle despite being physically separated from Israeli territory by about 1,600 kilometers, and from the main battleground in Gaza by more than 1,800 kilometers. Unable to take an active part in the battle that is still raging around Gaza, they decided to back Hamas more using indirect intervention. The Houthis declared in November 2023 that they would attack any ship in the Red Sea that was near their land and had any relation to Israel. This covered vessels sailing to or from Israeli ports, vessels owned by Israel, vessels flying the Israeli flag, and vessels crewed entirely or mostly by Israelis. They also said that Israel would continue to face assaults on its shipping until it fully left Gaza and ended its hostilities with Hamas. The Houthi strategy did, however, run into a small roadblock. You see, because merchant ships routinely sail between several countries for their origin and destination. The ownership structure of the modernized fleet of 21st-century merchant shipping is a complex matter. The ownership structure of the ship is frequently split up among different nations, some of which may not even be connected to the ship's origin or destination. Additionally, the ship may fly an entirely different flag. Furthermore, there's a chance that the ship's crew includes people from various nationalities. It is a difficult process to determine whether or not commerce ships operating on the world's oceans are deemed Israeli. Nevertheless, the Houthis' decision to intervene was unaffected by this intricacy. On November 19, 2023, they started attacking ships they thought to be Israeli. In their initial assault, they took control of an empty car carrier that was traveling from Turkey to India across the Red Sea. Using a helicopter to deliver a highly equipped Special Forces squad onto the ship's deck, the Houthis launched their raid. They promptly overthrew the crew of the ship and diverted it to the Port of Heda, which is under Houthi control in western Yemen. Under the ownership of Galaxy Maritime Limited, the ship was registered as the Galaxy Leader. Based on the British dependency on the Isle of Man, this business operates. An organization in Japan rented the ship, which was flying the Bahamas flag. The 25 people that made up its crew were from a variety of nations, including Mexico, Romania, Bulgaria, the Philippines, and Ukraine. Except for its owner, Galaxy Maritime Limited, which was part of Ray Car Carriers, the ship had no direct ties to Israel. Abraham Unar is a well-known Israeli businessman and billionaire who co-owns this company. His current net worth is estimated to be $3.5 billion. The Houthi rebels chose to target and take control of the ship as a result of these conditions. In the ensuing weeks and months, there were other attacks, so this was just the start. In the aftermath of the first attack, the Houthis launched hundreds of missiles and drones into the Red Sea, and they also attempted multiple hijackings of cargo ships. The merchant ships are connected to multiple countries across the globe. The Islamic Republic of Iran, the Houthis' principal ally, is the only source from which they have obtained missiles, drones, and intelligence. The Houthis are a militia that was once a chaotic group, but has now been carefully cultivated by Iran into a state-like military organization that possesses an enormous arsenal of guided anti-ship missiles and cheap kamikaze drones. The Houthis can overpower maritime anti-air defenses by using their overwhelming numbers. They have perhaps evolved into the most dangerous and well-armed piracy group of the modern era with Iran's assistance. The Houthis have a much better geographic position to destabilize the world economy than the pirates of the past, who came from Somalia and attacked commercial ships in the Arabian Sea. Since the start of the Yemeni civil war and the humanitarian crisis, which has led to instability, growing hostilities, and flooding in the area, Yemen's economy has substantially deteriorated. Both the North and South Yemeni economies were underdeveloped at the time of unification, notwithstanding their stark differences. Since Yemen's unification, the country's economy has been forced to bear the costs of its support for Iraq during the Persian Gulf War, 1990 to 1991. Almost 1 million Yemeni workers were driven out of Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia both drastically cut back on their financial assistance to Yemen. Yemen's economy was further depleted by the civil war in 1994. Yemen has therefore spent the last 24 years primarily relying on handouts from international organizations to maintain its economy. It has promised to carry out important economic reforms in exchange. Two programs, the Extended Funding Facility, EFF, and the Enhanced Structural Adjustment Facility, formerly called the Poverty Reduction and Growth Facility, or PRGF, were approved by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in 1997 to greatly increase Yemen's credit. The government of Yemen made an effort to put the suggested reforms into effect in the years that followed. These included cutting back on defense spending, removing diesel and other subsidies, lowering the payroll for the civil service, enacting a general sales tax, and privatizing state-run businesses. However, little progress meant that the IMF had to halt support from 1999 to 2001. The World Bank, along with other bilateral and multilateral lenders, had extended Yemen a 4-year economic support package worth $2.3 billion in October 2002. However, in late 2005, the World Bank announced that it would reduce financial aid by 1/3 between July 2005 and July 2008 due to Yemen's failure to implement significant reforms. $300 million concessional finance, a significant portion of the $2.3 billion package, has been postponed until Yemen's PRGF with the IMF is renewed, which is presently the subject of negotiations. On the other hand, the World Bank approved a strategy for aiding Yemen in May 2006, and as part of it, it will give the country over $400 million in International Development Association (IDA) credits between FY 2006 and FY 2009. At a conference of Yemen's development partners in November 2006, a total of $4.7 billion in grants and concessional loans were committed for the years 2007 to 10. Despite having abundant oil and gas resources and a sizable portion of land suitable for agriculture, Yemen is still among the world's lowest income nations. Over 80% of its people live in poverty as of 2018. Yemen's economy, which already has to deal with a 20 to 40% unemployment rate, is further burdened by the 1,000 Somali refugees who arrive there each month in search of employment. Yemen is still under tremendous pressure to enact economic changes or risk losing its vital international financial assistance. A once prosperous agricultural industry in the north suffered heavy blows from the interruptions caused by the Civil War, 1962 to 1970, and recurrent droughts. The output of coffee, which was once the primary export and source of foreign cash for the north, decreased as cotton farming grew. The Yemeni Arab Republic was heavily dependent on imports due to low industrial output and a shortage of raw resources. Fuel for sale on the black market during the ongoing civil strife in Sana'a. The coalition's aerial bombing campaign during the Saudi-led intervention and the Yemeni civil war have further devastated the country's economy. Yemen's economy shrank by 50% between the start of the civil war on March 19, 2015 and October 2018 as a result of the conflict. In addition, Yemen is experiencing inflation and the devaluation of the Yemeni rial. The Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development, of which Yemen is a member, has been providing loans and guarantees since 1974 to help Arab states and nations finance their economic and social development. Yemen received $136 million from the Arab League in March 2004 to fund infrastructural upgrades. During a mid-November 2006 meeting in London, a consortium of bilateral and multilateral donors committed to providing $4.7 billion for Yemen's economic development over 4 years, 2007 to 10. The World Bank and the Yemeni government jointly chaired the meeting, which had the aim of giving Yemen enough financial support to make it eligible for future membership in the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC. Grants will make up the majority of the aid, with almost 55% coming from the GCC. In 1999, Yemen was awarded observer status at the World Trade Organization, WTO, and as of December 2006, negotiations were underway to finalize its application for full membership. An estimated $4.7 billion was imported in 2005. This amount is expected to rise to $5 billion in 2006 and $5.4 billion in 2007. All major product categories, except fuels, are net imports into Yemen. Food and cattle, processed commodities, and industrial and transportation equipment are the main imports. The United Nations reports that over 75% of Yemen's primary food, staple, wheat, is imported. Due to fluctuations in the price of oil throughout the world, Yemen's import and export values have fluctuated significantly during the last 10 years. Consequently, there has been substantial volatility in the nation's trade balance, ranging from a nearly $800 million deficit in 1998 to a $1 billion surplus in 2000. Growing oil prices led to surpluses of $1.7 billion in 2005 and $817 million in 2004. With assistance from international donors, the World Bank, the IMF, and the Yemeni government, the Economic, Financial, and Administrative Reform Program, EFARP, was initiated in early 1995. The situation in Yemen, exacerbated by the actions of the Houthi rebels, presents a critical challenge to global stability and economic security. As tensions escalate and maritime trade routes remain under threat, nations must address the root causes of conflict in the region and work towards sustainable solutions. Stay informed about developments in Yemen and their impact on the world economy by subscribing to our updates.